Hello and welcome to Jazz After Dark, everybody. How you doing tonight? Hope you had a great weekend. Hope you're having a great summer, actually. It's kind of a slow summer out there, huh? Hot as can be. Chestnut Farms is who we'll be joined with today, Kentucky Straight Bourbon. I'm going to share with you real quickly. I don't know why I'm in like this YouTube mode tonight. Like, hey, everybody. It's kind of weird. Chestnut Farms, by the way, very good Kentucky Straight Bourbon. Enjoyed it with a friend when we were actually up in, where were we? We were in the North Georgia, North Carolina area for a drum corps show. And actually this week, Saturday, I'll be in Atlanta for the Atlanta Regional. And then the following night, Sunday night, we'll be in Winston-Salem, North Carolina. We'll be staying at the Grayland Estates. Want to come by and hang out a little bit? Send us an email, let us know, because we'll be nothing but hanging out until the show starts. Maybe we could just enjoy a little bourbon together out there in Winston-Salem. I am going to share with you tonight something I've enjoyed doing here on the Mondays when we do these shows. The news that you have missed while the mainstream media news has got us looking over here. Look what Biden did. Look what Trump did. Look at racism. Look at all this weird stuff going on. I'm like, there's other things going on. And it's sad, but that's the focus. And in the stock market, it's always like, oh, look at Tesla. Look at NVIDIA. There's so many other things going on. I thought, well, let's just do something on like Mondays where we go over the things you may have missed and maybe conjure up some ideas. First up, this is a fun one. We're going to get a little off the topics here. 1888, as of yesterday, 1888 was when the typewriter came out. I thought this was fun because they're talking about the typewriter and how it replaced a bunch of jobs, and there was a half dozen clerks that would have written with a pen. But now that this guy had made the P.G. Hubert had actually made the typewriter, oh man, we were going to have less people working. We had more women taking jobs here, but otherwise we had less people working because of all the typewriters out there. And I thought that was kind of fun because what's going on right now? You got it. AI. So everybody's looking at AI and they're like, oh man, it's going to replace jobs. And I thought, well, that was the anniversary of the typewriter. I thought I'd bring that up. We'll see. We'll see. I think, by the way, I rarely share like my personal opinion because I'm very so much stats driven, but I really think that people right now are using AI for fun. I go in there and I'm like, hey, my anniversary's coming up. What should I do? And I type fun things like that. But we use it a lot internally here at Jazz Wealth for generative reasons, and we have, but I don't think a lot of people do that. So it'll be some time before it catches on, but I just thought that was funny how back then, 1888, they're like, oh my God, this thing's going to take over. We're never going to have any more jobs. Kind of fun, and look what happened. We moved on to computers and so on. Anyways, do you like money? It's probably a silly question. Right. So check this out. NASA and the Tesla, SpaceX have teamed up. There's an asteroid out there floating around, and I believe it's in between Mars and the Jupiter belt. So if you ever remember from elementary school and middle school where they showed the planets, you got Jupiter and Mars just sort of floating around there. Right in between there, coming up, is this asteroid. And this asteroid is supposed to have been made, or supposedly made up of gold, iron, and nickel. So much money. Can you see it down here at the bottom? $10 quintillion worth of gold. And if you just won the Powerball, you think you're rich. This thing's got 10 quintillion. I can't even say it. Quintillion. So we got a trillion. There's got to be something in between that and then quintillion. I mean, yeah, we're up to five. That's a lot of trillions. Anyways, it's worth a lot of money. We've got about 100 days till NASA launches a spacecraft. However, SpaceX is sort of worked their way into this deal here. They've said, let's go down here. NASA just wants to study the thing. It's 173 miles wide, and it's made up of gold, iron, and nickel. Of course, very valuable here on the United States, in the world, actually, in Earth. And so NASA says, well, we just want to study it. SpaceX says we'd like to get some of that stuff out of the thing. So they're going to be launching their vehicle in October. And it's going to take 6 years to get there. When it gets there, it's going to spend 26 months just sort of studying, figuring out a plan of attack and everything. And potentially, the agency previously said that the belt was full of these asteroids, potentially worth 700 we're just throwing out numbers at this point. And so basically, SpaceX is going to go out there and they're going to say, we're willing to go out there and figure out how to get the stuff off of the rock. But NASA's like, we just want to study it, What? I'm not sure I understand that one there, but that's what is actually happening in the solar system. It's just fascinating to think of those large numbers. All right, stock-wise, Pfizer. Have you seen Pfizer? So Pfizer's actually been beaten down a little bit lately. I haven't looked at the stock price lately, but it's been pretty beaten down. There was a tornado in its North Carolina plant. And this is going to be a little bit of a setback for them here. So you've got CBS News reporting this one here. Really and by the way, Tony Bennett died. That's a sad one there, man. Tony Bennett's dead. That's a tough one. All right, moving on here. So a tornado moves through a North Carolina facility here. Now, these guys, they produce anesthesia. 50,000 pallets of this anesthesia medicine just thrown all over the place, smashed to pieces. There it is, anesthesia and other drugs. Nearly 25% of all sterile injectable medications that we use in the United States. This means that prices are going to go up. And there's the picture of it there. That's where it's at, North Carolina, actually. Rocky Mount, North Carolina, if you're up there, God bless you. That looked like a horrible tornado that went through. Took care of these guys here. A little bit nasty there as we continue to watch Tony Bennett in his previous life there. Big tornado, 150 miles an hour there. The point of the story is this is a bit of a setback for Pfizer. Not a big setback, but it's enough where it's going to impact the price of the stock. It already kind of has impacted the price of the stock. And if you are in that anesthesia world, you might find that that stuff's a little bit hard to come by. Next up, we have the Fed. That's the Federal Reserve building there up in old DC. So Fed Now. You guys have been waiting for this. By the way, if you're a client of Jazz Wealth, we did a Wine and Wealth class. That's our class we do on Thursdays. I did a class on Fed Now and the CBDC, the central bank digital currency. So the Fed Now platform has largely been seen as a springboard into the US digital dollar. The dollar is basically digital at this point, so I don't know what we're trying to do here. But we went over all the legislation, the timeline of everything as per the legislation goes. I am sort of a nut when it comes to reading existing and proposed legislation. I like to go through and highlight for clients and say, this is what's happening. This is what they mean. This is what will not get passed. That is my background. And so nonetheless, you may have noticed if you're at a larger bank, in particular JP Morgan and a few others, Bank of New York Mellon, US Bancorp, these are already out there and launched. Fed Now launched with 41 banks, 15 service providers. These would be the internal service providers, that the third-party services that these guys use. The point of the Fed Now program is that you would be able to pay people instantaneously, 24 hours a day with no sort of settlement period or anything. Your money would go to the Fed. The Fed would send it on and verify that that money is actually there. And this is largely seen by the, I won't say conspiracy theorists, but those of us that say, oh, this is horrible. They want to track everything that we're doing. Yeah, it's true. They're going to track it. I mean, that's pretty much spelled out specifically in the legislation. They will be tracking the types of payments and where they go. However, you get to pay people instantaneously. And I'm like, yeah, I'm good. I'll wait. I don't mind if someone has to wait 3 days for me to pay them. So nonetheless, it's out there. Your bank is likely participating. There is no cost to the Fed Now program. However, your bank is allowed to charge to recoup the sort of setup process, if you like. So you very, very likely will see a slight charge in there for the Fed Now program, depending on whatever they call it. They're allowed to call it anything they'd like. And that is officially launched and is spreading like wildfire across the banking system. All right, this one is kind of fun. I thought you might like this. I had heard of this years ago, during Enron, actually. That's the screen you see on the page there. There is a study. And the study was made by this man right here, right? And they call him Daniel, but his real name is Masoud Daniel Benish. I'm sure I've messed that up there. And they call it the M score. And so the M score is largely seen on a lot of advanced trading platforms there. And basically the M stands for manipulation and or named after the guy there. A lot of us say the manipulation score. It wasn't very popular for a while, but what happens here is, if I could break this down for a second, if you have a company and let's say you need to report to your investors on a quarterly basis, but you have sales that string over numerous quarters. Let's say this here, you've sold the Chestnut Farms and you've sold pallets and we're not sponsored by them, by the way, but let's say you've sold pallets and pallets to a local bourbon store. I don't know, right? Local liquor store. And you have a deal with them to sell them so many pallets every single quarter. Well, every quarter you need to report to your shareholders. Well, that sale, let's say, is good for the next year. Well, manipulation or the M score can detect whether companies are going forward and saying, even though this quarter's earnings are X, what they did is they went forward. Tesla's phenomenally awesome at this when it comes to their environmental credits. So what you could do is you could say, we have 60 pallets we sold this quarter, 60 that are going on next quarter, 60 the quarter after, and 60 the quarter after, for a total of a year of 24, would be 240 pallets, okay? Well, if you have a soft quarter where you're like, oh, I got to report to our shareholders, we're a little bit soft. You could go 2 quarters out and say, we already sold it to them, so let's just put it in this quarter. And here you go. We haven't actually sold it yet, but we have a contract to sell it, and we're going to count it on the quarter's earnings reports. That's manipulation. It's not 100%, but it is technically legal to do with certain aspects of your finances. For example, the environmental credits that Tesla had. They're well within their rights to say, we're going to sell those credits a year from now, but we're going to realize those gains right now. And so our earnings look great. Remember when Tesla got into the S&P? That's how they did it. And it's not a conspiracy. It is not illegal. It's just clever bookkeeping. Well, anyways, this M score is gaining in popularity again because it is sounding alarms that the stock market is in a bad position, right? So the higher the M score, the worse off the manipulation of finances is. In other words, the more manipulation is being needed to support growth in earnings, whether it's a bank, whether it's Caterpillar, whether it's Pfizer, for example. The M score picks this out. And so right now, I don't believe this is the article that shows. So they go and use the word fraud a lot. I would argue with that. Maybe this is what it's saying. It's just pointing out a direction of a higher pro. I don't want to use the word fraud because a lot of what manipulates the M score is not actually fraud. It is moving sales forward. Nonetheless, it's looking forward. M scores of 2004 companies are measuring the likelihood of financial manipulation. That's a better way of saying it there, across the economy. So what they did is, I probably was 35. So about 6 years ago or so, up at Purdue, what they did is they said, that's an M score for an individual stock. Let's make an index of the M score. Sorry if I've lost you here for a second. They said, we're going to make an M score index for every company that we track. And the index itself is reporting really extreme levels right now, meaning they have detected that many companies are moving forward potential sales, potential contracts. They're shifting out expenses and spreading them over longer periods of time. And I think that one's interesting because the last time that happened, well, we had Enron fall apart. We had MCI. You remember MCI? Right? Long distance company, or at least they were for a while. That's when all that started to fall apart. That was the last time the M score was so high. So if you're interested, maybe that's something you'll check out there. All right, lastly, and what I'm most fired up about because nothing is going to get done. You have 2 new congressmen and women who have decided, okay, we should not be able to trade stocks in Congress, right? The entire executive branch and their assistants and pages and everything like that. Kristen Gillibrand and Josh Hawley, which really cool guy, by the way. I'm not sure if he's Republican or Democrat. I just like his style, man. If you ever watch murder mystery type shows, he was a state prosecutor, and I forget from where, but I've seen him on those, and he's just a straight shooter, man. I don't know what he's done in Congress, so I may be, filling my mouth full of something here. But anyways, they said, this is ridiculous. Come on, we cannot be trading U.S. stocks, right? Based on what we're doing here. This is Wall Street Journal. I am not logged in, so it's not going to say continue for you here. But basically, they're saying this should not be allowed. Sadly, nothing's going to happen. Go back 7 years, 8 years, go back that long. It was a 60 Minutes episode. If you search YouTube for 60 Minutes Congressional stock ban, you will find when we were all fired up about this. What happened after that? We invaded Iraq, right? It was a wild thing. Well, look over here, right? Sadly, this is just a way to know that we are about to be misdirected to something else. I think we can all agree that congressmen and women should not be allowed to trade on inside information, which they do. You got Nancy Pelosi, who makes $240,000 a year, but she's worth over $100 million. Something's not adding up there, right? Nothing's going to be done about that. So whether that gets you fired up or not, I'm sorry, it's just not going to happen. Yet old Jim Cramer, who, honest to goodness, just probably trying to help people out there, he's not allowed to trade his own stock. You know that? You notice how it's always a charitable trust? He has to, legally. The very nice people on CNBC, Yahoo, Bloomberg, they're not allowed to trade their own stocks. It's weird. But Congress, men and women, who are about to vote on the very things that could cause a stock to go up and down, oh, they can buy and sell as they want. Clever. Anyways, I love doing these things, right? Just a handful of news stories. Is that all I've got for you here today? There's a lot of strikes going on out there, by the way. Kind of, between the airlines, what was Spirit Aerosystems, the actors and producers out there going on strike. It's kind of a great time to go on strike, by the way. If it's like summertime and you've got plans anyways, that makes sense. Anyways, yeah, that's all I got. I like sharing this stuff with you guys. I hope you enjoy it. If so, we'll do this on Mondays. Otherwise, I appreciate you guys hanging out with us. We'll see you on the closing beat. And if you're going to be in downtown Atlanta on Saturday evening or in Winston-Salem on Sunday, shoot us an email, let us know, meet up, hang out a little bit. And other than that, I appreciate you watching. Adios.